Hello and welcome to Hexed Encountered. I'm Joe. In this video, we will be doing a playthrough or a gameplay video on Bring Out Your Men, Gentlemen, the Battle of Brawner's Farm. This is, of course, Volume 3 in A Shattered Union. As you can see up here, this is designed by Claude Whalen and is based on the system created, of course, by Hermann Luttmann, published by, as you can see down here, Tiny Battle. So what we're going to be doing here is we're going to be playing the third scenario, which is a short scenario called Brave Men's Tears. It's the short historic version. So this one's going to start at 6:20 and end at 8 after the 8:20 p.m. turn, 7 turns, and it's more scripted than the game's first scenario. I opted for this as just a good way to show off the game as opposed to, worrying about having to figure everything out and doing the full-on long scenario. And I may get to do that at some point anyway, but we're gonna start off here with the short and sweet version. So historically, the 2nd Wisconsin advanced and tried to capture Wooding's battery, but was instead surprised by Baylor's Stonewall Brigade. The scenario starts with Wooding and the Confederate skirmishers retreating off the field, the 2nd Wisconsin fully advanced, and Baylor's troops beginning to engage the lone Union regiment. All other troops are in their general positions, though there is not a specific map that shows where the troops were at 6:40. The Manassas Park Rangers had a good laugh when I inquired if they had any idea of exactly where troops were at that time. All right, so setup-wise, we place the listed units in their appropriate positions. So Hatch and Patrick's troops are not included in this scenario on the Union side. So you have your list of everybody from the Union side and their locations. Same for the Confederates. Scenario game turns, all normal game module rules apply, except as noted below. Each game turn may have a different activation card seating rule. In addition, both players unfreeze units during the game, and these unfreezings are detailed in each game turn description. So before we get into some of that stuff, here's a look at the initial setup. So down here in blue, as you might expect, are our Union forces. So you've got Gibbon's brigade here with the green GI, and I know we're at an extreme range here, but I will zoom in. Then you've got Doubleday's troops as well. They're down here along the road. So it's basically Gibbon's, which is the green corner dot, and Doubleday, which is kind of the blue DD in the corner. He's got essentially New York and Pennsylvania troops. Gibbon's troops are primarily Wisconsin troops, but also some troops from Indiana. The 19th Indiana is here as well. Then we have 2 artillery groups here. We have the Reynolds and Reynolds 2 guns here, both rifled. One is 2, the other is 4 in terms of strength. Campbell's up here. He's got a 4-strength smoothbore and a 2-strength smoothbore as well. Now on the Confederate side, they're up here. You're looking at several different commanders here. You've got Baylor, who was mentioned in our read-through there. His men are right here, strung out across this area. Brawner's Farm is right here, which is a victory location. I did not put the victory chit down, but that would be this one right here. So that is the counter for it. So if we just put that in there, it indicates it's worth 6 victory points, but that's Brawner's farmhouse. So he's got several regiments of Virginians here. Then we have up here, you have Lawton's men, and they are primarily Georgians. So you've got these guys right here, all the way stretching along the road, or along the unfinished railroad, rather. We've got some guns as well. You've got Garber and Brown up here, Carpenter and Pogue, Pelham, all their guns there. And then in the back here, you have Trimble's men. I believe that's Trimble. Yes, Trimble's men up here. So they are a mixture of Virginians and some Georgians with some North Carolina troops, as well as some Alabama troops and some troops from Georgia. Heavy contingent of Georgia troops in this particular scenario. Of course, our commander-in-chief is Thomas Stonewall Jackson on the Confederate side. The Union is a little bit less. They abstracted out the Union commander-in-chief for this. So I did find the note here in the book, the rule book, for the for this particular game-specific rulebook. You've got a note here that there is no CIC card for the Union player. Rufus King had a seizure, and Corps Commander McDowell had ridden off to find Pope. Gibbon and Doubleday are basically on their own. So there are a lot of little notes and such in here provided by our game designer. So what we need to set up here is the cards that are used in the turn. So you get your command decision phase. So just to kind of go through some of the turn sequence here, you can see you've got this right here. All the formations are brigades, the formations in this module, right? We don't, CIC King is disabled. You've got the 4 brigades here. As mentioned earlier, Hatch, the 1st Brigade, and the 4th Brigade of Patrick are not in this particular scenario. We just have Gibbon's 2nd Brigade and Doubleday's 3rd. On the Confederate forces, you have your Commander-in-Chief, Jackson. He didn't really trust Ewell and Taliaferro, so he basically didn't use them. They don't have game cards. Then you have Baylor, Trimble, Lawton, Taliaferro, and Stark. Stark is not in this scenario either, I believe, as well as not all of Taliaferro's men either are also not on there. But you do have Baylor, Trimble, and Lawton's full brigade and pieces of Taliaferro's brigade. So event cards, etc. So in the scenario setup, they tell you what you should pull out as far as your cards, because this is a card activated game. So everybody is activated by card draw. These 2 cards here, Fog of War card and the Friction of War card, which is this one right here, they go into every deck. Then we also have a lot of Confederate activation cards and some event cards as well. Here at the top, we have, these are event cards, these are command cards. So we will seed the deck with those. On the Union side, they've also got event cards and they've got command cards. Now you can see they have a little bit less because their forces are smaller than the Confederate forces. So in terms of what we do next is we seed the deck by selecting some cards out, and then we would basically fill it in with fill in randomly the rest of it to fill out the deck, and then we create our draw deck, and we'll draw a card, and that'll activate a unit, and then the units have actions that are either based on the cards. As you can see here, we have a defend Trimble. There's a bunch of these. Baylor, attack Trimble, and then you have a die roll where you roll to determine what gets activated. So you have maneuver Trimble here, right? You roll your d6 and you get either no activation or 2 regiments, 3 regiments, or the full brigade, right? And you have that for all of these. Here's Taliaferro, here's Stark, who won't be in this particular one. Here's Lawton, and then Baylor at the bottom. So you have maneuver, you have defend, and there are attack as well. So those are the 3 types. I'll get into what the specifics of that means. Here's our CIC card for Jackson. So this is Jackson's overall commander card, basically. And again, you roll and it tells you what you get. You can do fire combat with 1 regiment, fire combat with 2. And you have artillery and 2 regiment, fire combat, etc. So that's Jackson's impact on it. Now, there is not one of these for the Union as mentioned prior, because King was out of action and basically McDowell was off looking for Pope. So we don't have any CIC card on the Union side. And the benefit of the CIC card is you have the flexibility to actually activate a specific unit. So it gives you a little bit more flexibility. So we have maneuver cards for the Union, then we have defend cards, and then we have attack cards. And there aren't that many attack cards. If you look here, we only have 2 attack cards. We have a Gibbon attack and a Doubleday attack. So Hatch and Patrick don't even have attack cards. So taking a look at our game turn 1 here. Now again, a lot of this is scripted, but we'll go through and hopefully show enough of the game for you guys to actually get a sense of how this plays. Because this is a really interesting system, and I think it's a lot of fun. So we have game turn 1, 6:40 p.m. No victory points are scored by either side until the end of the game. So we don't have to worry about tallying up victory points till the end. Baylor's Brigade and Lawton's 31st and 61st are unfrozen. The rest of Lawton's brigade is frozen for this turn. So Baylor's brigade again, these guys along the line here. And then Lawton gets the 31st and 61st Georgians. So that's here's the 61st and here's the 31st. So these two are active. The rest of them are not. A lot of these are overstacked on both sides. And I'll get into the stacking rules and stuff in a moment. But I did want to mention that. So 31st and 61st Georgia are unfrozen for the entire game. Lawton sees one maneuver card, automatic activation when this card is drawn, but you still have to roll the red die to see how many units move, plus one other activation card that must be rolled for normally. So he's going to get a maneuver card and then an activation card. Baylor must roll for activation for both of his selected cards. All right, Gibbon seeds a maneuver card. Automatic activation for this card, but roll the red die to see how many units move. Gibbon's second seeded card must be rolled for activation. Normally the 2nd, Wisconsin, 19th, Indiana, and 7th, Wisconsin are unfrozen, but the 6th, Wisconsin remains frozen. Both Jackson CIC cards, the Fog of War and Fortunes of War, are included. Each player receives 1 key card and 3 random event cards. All the batteries on the map are active. All right, so I'm going to set that up. And then we're gonna actually get into turn 1. All right, we are ready to rock and roll. Okay, so I've seeded the deck. It's right here. Here's our map. We are ready to go. I've got my dice tower. I got my dice. You can see there are 5 dice. Red and white typically go together to make an 11 to 66 number. Your black is typically used for ammunition shortages, and then you have a blue and a gray, whose usage should be pretty obvious given the forces here. Let me adjust this a little bit, like so. All right, so pretty easy. We draw a card, and it is a Maneuver Gibbon card, and my focus is not working. So we've got Maneuver Gibbon. Now, according to the rules for this turn, just to quickly review, Gibbon seeds a maneuver card, but roll the die to see how many units move. All right, so we're going to roll the die to see how many units move. We'll roll the red, it says, and we get a 3, and a 3 is 3 regiments. Okay, so we've got Gibbon right here. Each one of these counters is a regiment. So you've got the 2nd Wisconsin here, and it's got companies A to C, and then underneath that we've got 2nd Wisconsin D and E. So we'll just move, these guys are here, and what we'll do is they're on high ground, but so are the rebels. Now you can't fire because it's a maneuver card. You can only fire with an attack or defend card, which this is just the maneuver card. So he can move to 2 regiments. So let's take 2 of these guys here, since we have 4 stacked together. And stacking is based on the combat strength, which is the number on the left. So that's a 4. And the stacking limit for this game is 8 strength points. So right here you can see we've got 9 there, so they're overstacked. 8 there, so they're good. But these guys have 16, so they're really overstacked. So we're going to we'll move 1. Now our movement here, we have our movement terrain chart on the bottom, and we're in woods, and we're at I guess that's level 2. So we're going to move. Yeah, we're going to move here. So move to woods is 2 movement points. Now because he's on a maneuver, he's got 7 movement points. So he'll move there, and then we'll move him 1 more here for 4 and stop. And then we're going to take his friend here, and we're going to do the same exact thing and stack him there. And did I roll? I actually rolled a 3, so that I think is 3 regiments. That is 3 regiments on the card. So we're going to move one of these guys out of here. I'm going to move the bottom one, the 4. And we're just going to move him here. So he goes down one, which won't affect this. Won't affect it, but it does cost 2 to move there. So I'm not moving him by any stretch of the imagination. They're full movement point, but that removes the stacking problem for this particular group over here. We have an overstacked group over here as well. We might have one here. We do. So we have a few more, and it's going to be difficult to do all of those, probably, would be my guess, based on what we've got. So then we just draw another card. So we draw another card, and we've got good ground, hold. So this is an event card. So you can always play it for the default event, which at the bottom it says any one unit may move 1 hex or issue fire combat. So I could fire if I wanted to with somebody, but range-wise, well, we have artillery here that I guess could fire, but I want to hold this for the card event, which is you can play it any time before a new card is drawn this turn. Place the good ground chit in any Union-occupied hex. All Union units in that hex targeted by fire combat or in the defending hex in assault combat will apply a 2-column shift to the left. That benefits the defender, of course. Units may leave the hex normally, but if the hex is then empty, remove the chit immediately. Otherwise, the chit's removed at the end of the turn. So I can play this right now, or I can hold it. I might as well just play it and pick which hex I want to have that. And we're going to put our good ground on this hex right here. So we'll give him good ground since he's a 5 and he's by himself. That should help with defending there. Draw our next card. Now we have a Baylor attack. Okay, so Baylor attack, this is not his maneuver card that was seeded for free. So he has to roll. And we roll and we get a 6, which is a good roll. So you get you get the artillery and brigade fire combat / close combat if you roll less than the cohesion rating. Well, we don't have to worry about close combat. So with an attack, you can actually move. Okay, so in the interest of showing how some of this stuff works, we're going to move Baylor's men. They get to move 5 movement points. So they can take Brawner's farmhouse. I'm going to actually remove this for now because, as it said, we don't tally victory points till the end. And I know Brawner's farm is a 6 VP location. It is, in fact, the only VP location, I think, specifically. It's the only one that has a chit for it anyway. So we're going to move. Again, these guys are violating stacking, so we can clear that up. If we move the 2 into there just to sit at the farm. Then we'll move the other ones because that's only a 1, I think. Yeah, that's only 1 movement point. Then if we move down here, like so, okay. So now we're in position. We're also right next to some cannon, so we can see what canister does. Again, this is mostly for demonstration purposes, so it would not necessarily be something that you would want to do. And we'll move these guys up here. We'll move these guys up here. And then this is the rest of Baylor's men. We'll move them here. Once you move into a hex adjacent to an enemy unit, they are considered to be engaged. So that's obviously important. Now I need to check to find out which cannon or which artillery is attached to Baylor in this scenario. All right, so we do have some cannon. So I'm going to assume that the cannon that was adjacent to Baylor's men, which was in this area, are these 2, and that they are active. Okay, so I believe that these batteries are connected to Baylor because of where they set up. And then this one would be with maybe Trimble, and these guys over here with Lawton. I'm just guessing here. But anyway, so I'm going to move these up as well. We're not going to fire, but we'll move them up. So they'll move across here. And they're elevated. Let's just leave them right there, and then we'll move this guy up 1 as well. Okay, so now we can elect to do close combat. So we'll get a chance to see that in action here, since we do have the ability at the bottom. You can see it says close combat. Okay, so what I think I'm going to do is just do the movement. I'm not going to actually do a closer combat here. We're just going to hold that for later. So now we'll draw our next card. And the colonel is down, play immediately. Play this event on any rebel unit. The Union player must roll the die against the CR of that unit. If the die roll is less than or equal to the CR, no effect. Die rolls greater than the CR, apply a shaken result. Okay, so the Union player, well, you also, it says play immediately, so you do need to play it. Any rebel unit. Okay, so let's play it on, this guy right here on top. 4th Virginia, A to E. So I will roll the Union die because it's a Union roll. His cohesion rating's a 5. It's the red number. And it's a 1, so it's less than or equal to, so it has no effect. No effect, so that card didn't do anything. We move on to the next one. Now we get a fog of war. Any player rolls the red and white, so we'll roll our red and white. And we got a 51, and a 51 is here. Fortunes of war, rebel. The rebel player takes the fortune of war marker. So the fortune of war marker is right here. What it does on the back, in the older version, it would tell you what it did. It lets you re-roll, basically, is what it does. So basically, what I'm doing is I've got my Union stuff on the left, which you can't see, and my Confederate stuff on the right, which you also can't see. But I'm going to stick this on the right so that I know that the rebels have it, and they will be able to use that. So we'll draw the next card. We've got Jackson CICB. Okay, so we'll roll our die. It's supposed to be red, but I want to roll the gray die for fun. So we've got artillery and 3 regiments fire combat / close combat if it's less than or equal to their cohesion rating. So I have an opportunity to do close combat again or fire combat. Maybe we'll just let's do some fire combat. Because we can, with 3 regiments. Okay, so we've got, oh, you know what? I shouldn't have moved that. I'm going to move him back because I shouldn't have done that because we have 8 right there. So we'll leave our 2 in the back as kind of a reserve force, perhaps. All right, so these guys are going to attack here. So, and then we'll activate this top guy. Yeah, they're both 3s. So we'll attack. I could have put him here. Well, no, they don't go together because they're different units. That's a key rule as well. So these 2 will attack because they're from the 23rd. This is the 23rd Virginia. So they're going to attack this guy right here. And then I'll save the other one for something else, maybe. We'll see. All right. So when you do an attack, you roll all 5 dice. Now we look at the ground. So they have a height advantage because they're down. It's downhill. So we're going to look right here. And we're going to roll all 5 dice. And I'm just going to roll them all together. And then we'll go through what everything means. So I'm going to split them into 3 groups. So we got a 35 from our red and white. We got a 6 for the Union and a 5 for the Confederates. And we got a 2 for the ammunition, which is actually a key point in this case. So here on our handy dandy chart here, you can see ammunition problems. And it is the same for, yeah, because you have a game-specific one for this one, which is the same. This is just larger. So it's actually the same table. There are some differences up here, but this is the same. So basically because the Union had better supply, I guess, maybe, they only fail their ammunition on 1. The Confederates fail on a 2. So it is a Union target hex, so they're going to get a 1 column shift to the left for that. Okay, So that handles that. And then we look at this, which is 35. Now here, we look at our CRT table first, and you add up the attacker strength points. Our attacker strength points in this case are 8. So we are in the 8 column, which is here, and we rolled a 35, which is here. So you go to the 8 column and you have E. That indicates the strength of the cohesion test that they're going to have to take. And so that's going to put us in this column right here. And so you roll your firing hex die roll less target hex die roll. Okay, so the firer got a 5 and the target got a 6. So what you do is you take the differential and you add that to the cohesion rating. So the cohesion ratings on both sides are 5s. So we have a 5. Well, it's actually, I guess, yeah, it's like it doesn't really matter because they're both 5. There's 4 units. They're all 5s. So add the 6 to the Union, it's 11. Add the 5 to the 5 for the Confederates, it's 10. So the differential is -1. So you look in the -1 column here under E, no effect. So there was no effect of that particular fire combat. Now we have one more unit we can fire with. So question is, which one do we want to do it with? Let's do this guy firing at this. Actually, now that I think about it, they could fire back and you can end up in a firefight. So maybe let's do that to show how that works. So the Union can fire back now because they've been fired upon. So we're going to roll all the dice again. And we get a 1 this time. And I forgot to shift the column, but it wouldn't have made a difference. Wouldn't have made a difference. Yeah, it would not have made a difference. So we're okay on that score. So this time we get a 15. We get a 1, which indicates a shift to the left for the Confederates. So again, they're tied now. So the differential is going to be 0. But we need to look at 15 in the CRT first. So our strength for the firing unit is 8. We knew that from the other one. So it's 8, but it's going to get shifted to the 6, 7 column. And it was a 15. So that's an N, which is down here, N. And we know that the differential is 0, so there's also no effect. So now you can continue to do this back and forth until one side rolls doubles, in which case it doubles on here, in which case it becomes a shocked result, and that stops the exchange of volleys. Let's go one more, and then we'll move on to something else just to kind of keep things moving, but we'll just do one more. And we didn't roll doubles, but we rolled a lot of 6s. So we got a 56 and a black 6, so there's no ammunition shortage this time, but this is going to be a minus. Well, let's figure it out. Our firing unit is an 8. We don't have any column shifts because of terrain. Actually, that's wrong. That's wrong. I've been doing it wrong. We do get a column shift because, or maybe we don't. So you have fire combat advantages here. Canister fire, 2 hexes. Target hex would be to the left. Firing into woods, no, no, and no. But I think firing downhill does give you an advantage. Let me confirm that. Fire combat. Firing hex is higher elevation than the target. Firing downhill. It's only line of sight. It's only talking about line of sight. So line of sight there. That's only a line of sight thing. So there is no advantage for that. They're just firing downhill. It's fine. So there are no column shifts. So we are in the 8 column, as I already mentioned. And we rolled a 56. So 56 is all the way down here. So that's actually a little bit better for them. We end up in the T column, which is over here. So you can see now we've got some shake-ins in here and some disruptions, and SK is skedaddle, which is basically retreat. But we have to figure out our differential. Now the differential favors the Union in this case. It's 6-3. Both sides have the same cohesion, so we know it's a -3. So we go to -3. T column is a shaken. So the Union forces get a shaken result. So we put that on, whoops. Now here's the shaken counter. And you can see -1, so it reduces their cohesion and their fire and their combat rating. So we'll just put that on here. And I think that only applies to, does that apply to both units? Yep, it's all units. Instead of placing it under it, I'm just going to put it, well, I guess I'll just leave it on top for now so I know that they're shaken. I can always pick it up and look underneath. So we're going to elect, I guess, not to continue the firefight here, just to keep things moving along for demonstration purposes of the game. So we have one more unit that can fire, so we're going to have this guy fire. Why not? It's a little dicey because we only have one unit that's firing, so we're not firing the entire hex. We'll just fire the top. Companies A through E of the 4th Virginia will fire here at Monroe's artillery. When we roll, we're going to have ammunition problems, which is going to make this even harder. The Union roll is better than the Confederate roll, and we got a 31. So this is going to be probably no effect. And you'll get to see what canister can do here in a moment. So this is not really a smart move on my part, but I wanted to demonstrate this. So we're in 4. It's going to get shifted to 3. We rolled a 31. So 31 is here, which, as you can see, is an N. So in N, everything except positive, really positive differential is a no effect. And they're a negative because that's a -3 and it's 4. They had a +1, -3 is still a -2. If you go to -2, it's no effect. So no effect. And then they would be able to fire back. So, and that would be a canister that they would be firing because they're in the adjacent hex. And I'm not sure if it's everybody. We also have some adjacent units that I didn't talk about, how that affects combat. And I didn't mention it because it does not impact it, so we don't have to worry about that. So as far as firing doing the return fire here, so at the bottom here in our player aid, you can see firefight. Target units may fire back at firing units unless skedaddled or shocked. So they're not skedaddled, which means they can fire. Now, as far as artillery fire, also I didn't talk about this, but here are our firing ranges for weapons. So in effective and long range. Long range basically gives you a column shift, a negative column shift. So you want to fire effective infantry as a 1, rifled artillery is effective at 3 to 12, and smoothbore at 3 to 7. But you do have the ability to fire canister if you're adjacent. So what all that really does in terms of your canister here is it shifts it 1 column to the right. So it's the same kind of thing. Let's do an attack here. And we're going to roll. And we no artillery problems. We got a 61, and it's a 3-4 for the cohesion check. Okay, so getting our chart out here, we've got the firepower is a 4. We'll say that the rifled fired. It doesn't really matter because they're on top. Plus they're a 4, not a 2. But that was the unit he was firing at. So that's the unit that fires back. So the strength is a 4, gets shifted to the 6-7 column. We rolled a 61, which is down here. And so that's an R. So that's a middling kind of cohesion test range. Now, the Union, so we have a 4 and a 5. So that the Union's already -1. So they're going to end up being -2 because of the die roll being 1 better for the Confederates there. So -2. Or I'm sorry, +2. No, it is -2. It is -2. In the R column is no effect. So we could continue, again, going back and forth, but in terms of just trying to move this along, I'm going to draw my next card. Now we've got Stand To It. This is a Union event card. Play the Stand To It chit on any unit hex targeted by fire combat or on a Union defending hex in assault combat after the CRT dice are rolled. So I'm going to hold this card. the reroll. So basically, it forces a reroll on fire combat or assault combat. So good to have. We will hold that. Draw our next card. And we've got the Jackson CIC A card. So we're going to roll again. Pull everything out. I'll roll my gray. We get a 1. So 1 regiment fire combat. So not all that useful. But let's see what we want to do here. Maybe we should have somebody fire at these guys again. So we're going to take Baylor here, and the 23rd, sorry, 23rd. Is that 33rd? That is the 33rd. 33rd Virginia, companies A to D are going to fire here on our shaken units. They have a, well, the top will fire at this hex. So they have a cohesion of 4, and theirs is 5. So we know that going in. Now we'll roll our dice. And we get a 6 for the black, so that's not, sorry, messing with my tower here. That is not a negative, that's not a ammunition problem, so we'll move that out. We got a 25 and then a 5-3 advantage for the Confederates, so that's going to give a +3 on their roll. The 25 on our chart, their firepower is a 4. 25 on the chart is N, and the differential is going to be 1, 2, 3. So the differential is +3. +3 under N is a shaken. Now, when you're already shaken, if you take a second one, it becomes disrupted, which is twice as bad. It's now -2, -2. Okay, so that ends that, and then we draw another card. So you see it can kind of move along pretty quickly. So this is the Army of Northern Virginia Veterans card. You can play this chit after any of your CRT die rolls for fire or assault combat. You may re-roll any one or all of the dice, but have to keep. So this is almost a counter to what we just drew with the stand to it for the Union. So I'm going to keep that for the Confederates right next to my Fortunes of War chit. And we'll draw our next card. Friction of War. Discard the next drawn activation card without any effect. So put that down and we draw our next card. This one gets discarded. This is a Baylor maneuver card. Bad luck for the Confederates. Now we draw another card. Rebel Yell Hold. So this was the card I chose for them. So this will allow them 1 hex, at least 1 rebel infantry unit. You may immediately move any or all infantry units 1 hex adjacent to a Union occupied hex. And unfortunately, I actually moved everybody there that I wanted there already. The selected units must conduct an assault combat. Each rebel unit CR is increased by 1, and these units get a 1 column shift to the right on the CRT until the end of any breakthrough move resulting from this combat. Let's do it with, now I'm not 100% sure I can actually do this, but we're going to have this guy do a close combat here. So we know he's going to pass his cohesion because he's got a 5, and you can't roll over a 6 on a 6-sided die. So that's an automatic pass. And then you get a +1 column shift to the right on the CRT until the end of any breakthrough. So we'll keep that because it has an ongoing effect. And we're going to roll our dice here. So a 2 is a problem for so that's going to cancel it. Basically, it's going to cancel their advantage. We got a 52 and a 5-4 advantage for the Union on the cohesion roll. So the 2 means that whole thing got canceled. So we have an 8, and he's a 5 with good ground, right? So what does good ground give you? I'm so glad you asked. It's on the card. So here's the card. So we played this, right? We played it immediately, and we didn't hold it. So if it's defending in an assault combat or a fire combat, it gets a 2 column shift to the left. So that's outstanding. That really comes in handy right now because we had an 8, which gets modded down, right? Our Rebel Yell moved it this way, but that got canceled by our ammunition problems. Now it's going to get moved all the way over to the 4-5 column. We rolled a 52, which in the 4-5 column is an R, which is not terrible. It's in the middle. And then we got a 5-4 advantage for the Union. The cohesion rating is, I guess, does that count? Yeah, we're going to say that it's a 6 because it got increased by 1 by the Rebel Yell. So it's 6-5, which makes this a tie. So we're at 0. So 0 in the R column is going to be a shaken result. Oh, wait, sorry, screwed that up. Wrong thing. We're not up here. We're down here in the close combat cohesion test type. So it's still a 0, and we're still in R. But you see D, shaken, skedaddle 1. So A would be attacker, B is both, D is defender. So our defender gets a shaken and has to skedaddle 1 hex, which means retreat. So he's got to move away from the enemy, so he's going to move here. The good ground gets removed, and he gets a shaken marker, so we'll stick a shaken marker on him. And these guys can then move up. And now we're in a breakthrough situation because they can attack again. Okay, so let's have him attack. We'll have him attack the same unit. So we're going to do the same thing now. So it's going to be 8, and he still gets that column shift as well. And they don't have good ground now. So as long as we don't roll a 1 or a 2 on the black, and we didn't. So they got a 6-4 advantage on that, and they got a 3-1. So a 31. So we do this again. So their power is an 8. So the attacker is an 8. We rolled a 31. We get a column shift to the right. So it's E, which is what it was anyway. So that's not a great die roll. And then we go down here, and our differential is 2 there, plus another 1 is a +3. So we're at a +3 in the E column. +3 E column is DSH. So they get another shaken, which becomes disruption, and another skedaddle result. So because I don't want to overstack, they'll skedaddle to this hex, because it's still away from the unit. And they can move up again if they wish to, and why not? Actually, that's probably not a good idea. We're not gonna advance after this one, because we have Gibbons, and they could all join together to attack there because they're in the same brigade. So we want to avoid that. So that finishes that, and so now we've got 2 disrupted Union forces here. Now we've got Maneuver Lawton. So Lawton, of course, is over here. Now, as far as what he has activated currently, in turn 1, this is his automatic activation. We roll the red die to see how many units move. So let's roll our red die. And it's a 1. So he gets to move. Now this says no activation, but it says roll to see how many units he can move, so it's 1. I am assuming that's what that means. Otherwise, you're just basically rolling normally, and it says not to do that. So we can move 1 unit. Now they do have some overstacking going on here, so let's take care of that. Let's just move this guy. There would be, that costs 2. I think we'll stop there. We'll stop there. We've got artillery rather, that can probably fire at him now. So we'll just go with that. We'll draw our next card. Murderous Volleys, hold. So this is a Union event card. So we've got fire combat and defensive fire. There's 2. And then you always have your default action you can also use if you choose to not hold. If you hold it, you lose the right to do this, but you can still do these 2. So for our fire combat, we would be able to increase the result by 2 categories. Only if at least one of the firing units has a CR of 3 or more. Okay? If not, you only get 1. defensive, before the close combat dice are rolled, apply 1 additional defender advantage shift for any defending Union units. All right, so we'll hold that as well. Oh, shoot. I should have played this card. I have a problem remembering to play cards sometimes. Oh, well. Yeah, great. Good job, Joe. I could have saved my guys over here, but I didn't. Now we have attack Lawton. Okay, so attack by Lawton. So that gives them the ability to, they can move 5. So we do have to roll. So let's roll I'm going to roll the gray die. Now we got a 4, which is 4 regiments fire combat, according to the card right there. 4 regiments fire combat. We're down to 3 cards left in the turn. So we have 4 regiments. So let's move this guy. I don't think the crossing the creek it does cost 1 extra. So that would be 2, 3, and I guess, well, we could move here, but I don't know that I want to put myself in canister range. So we'll stop there, and then we're going to move this guy. That's 2, 4, 5. Then let's see, who else do we want to move? We can move these guys up. We'll move these 2 together. That'll be 4 total, and remove some of my overstacking issues. So they'll go here for 1, and then they'll jump over here for 2 more. And that finishes that. So let's pick our next card. Now note that was a fire and it was an attack card, so I could have fired, and fire comes before movement. So by moving, I basically chose not to fire because they were all out of range anyway. So now we've got command confusion, and we can play this after the rebel player is chosen in order for any one of his active brigades. Roll a die. 1 to 3 rebel player must be given no orders. So I'll keep this as well. We now have 3 things. Here's our next card. We've got Defend Gibbon. Okay, so with a defend order, you can fire or move. Okay, so I'm going to roll to see what we get here. So let's roll our blue die. And we got a 3, which is 3 regiments. So 3 regiments can be activated. Now, I do have this card, the Murderous Volleys card, so I want to probably use that. So we can activate 3 regiments. So the key here would be figuring out the 6th Wisconsin is frozen, but everybody else in this brigade is not. There's not a whole lot to do here. We're going to have these guys fire at these guys, I guess. So it's a 4, and their cohesion is a 4. So let's roll. And we have an 8 there. So 6 means no ammo problems. 15 is our number there, and they got a big advantage in that. So now with our Murderous Volleys, after fire combat are rolled, increase the result by 2 categories only if at least one of the firing units has a CR of 3 or more. And it does. Their CR is a 4. So we're going to increase it by 2 so that 8 will get shifted 2 columns. So the 8 becomes a 13, 15, and we rolled a 15, which is a bad roll, but I'm going to use it anyway because it moves us to the E column from the N column. So that gives us a shot at least. Now they're one cohesion worse than them, but they rolled a +4 in the dies, so that's a total of +3. So it's +3 in the E column is a shaken. So it worked to shake that unit or those units in that hex. So that's good. That was good. We have 1 more unit that can fire. Now let's look at how long range works. We'll have this guy fire at that same hex. Now this isn't the best move because you're going to take a -2 column shift. Okay, so this is basically a waste of time, but I'm going to do it anyway. Well, you know what? No, I'm not. I'm just going to fire there. Why not? So it's a 4. So we'll fire here. Not a whole lot going on there. We're going to fire. Okay, no ammo problems. We did get a +3 on the cohesion, and we got a 45, which is a decently high roll. So maybe this won't be terrible after all. So we're in the 4 column. They do not get any bonus. They are in clear terrain. Yep, there's nothing there. Those guys were also in clear terrain, just confirming. So they're in the 4. We rolled a 45, so 45 is down here. That is an E. Then our roll, so it's 5 and 5, so no difference there. And yeah, they're both 5s. 5 and 5, so that gives us a +3. So +3 in the E column is a shaken, so that they get shaken as well. Now they don't, yeah, they're both, well, the Rebel Yell is used, but they have their veterans that they have not used. So they're shaken. Last card, and it is double time, play immediately. Conduct a CR check for each regiment in a brigade. If the roll is successful for any or all, double the movement rate for the entire regiment. If the roll fails, the regiment moves at the regular rate. Okay, so this would, I believe, go with a movement order, maybe? Although it does say play immediately. But I'm going to skip it anyway. I'm going to wrap up the video. So I did complete 1 full turn. Hopefully I didn't make too many mistakes. They do have the Fortunes of War that I could have played to re-roll, but I didn't. Now, because they had held cards, this card would get put into the discard, as well as the 2 that the Union had but did not play, these 2. And that is going to end the video. So I do thank you, as always, for watching. Please consider liking, sharing, subscribing. If you have comments, feel free to post them, etc., etc. But that does it for this gameplay example for the game Bring Out Your Men, Gentlemen. This is a Shattered Union game. It is the Battle of Brawner's Farm, designed by Claude Whalen from Tiny Battle Publishing. So until next time, I'm Joe. This is the Hexed Encounter channel, and as always, happy gaming.